If you just purchased a Zhiyun Crane-M2 S, the new version of the M2, but you don't really know how to use it, well, I hope this video is going to be helpful because we're going to cover a full manual, a full guide for you. I hope I'm going to cover everything. If I don't, leave a comment down here in the tab and I'll try to help you out. But first of all, hit the subscribe button and I'll see you after the intro. Hello, how's it going? For today, for this purpose, this manual, we're gonna use a GoPro Hero 10, the latest release, and also I try to cover some stuff with the smartphone, a Samsung, and also a camera from the Alpha 7 family. Probably I can't show you everything with all the devices, but I try my best. In the bag, we will find the gimbal and a tripod. First of all, we're gonna screw it in. That's the simplest thing in the world. So we're ready to go and we drop it right there. The first thing we want to do is to charge the gimbal, of course. It will come with 3 different cables. The one I'm using is the normal USB cable that goes to USB-C. And what I do is to connect the normal USB to the socket, electrical socket, and the USB-C to my gimbal right here. So this is my DC input to charge the gimbal. I simply plug it in. And in the front of the gimbal, I now should have the battery levels going up and down, telling me the gimbal is charging. The great feature of this gimbal is that you can use it as you are charging it through a power bank. So if you're in a set filming and the gimbal battery is going down, you can plug in a power bank and continue using it as it's charging. It can be very useful also for longer time lapse. If someone asks me on YouTube, yes, you can power up the gimbal through a power bank and keep recording. We're gonna move to the locking system. The locking system are literally 4 different locks around the gimbal that is gonna help you, first of all, to transport your gimbal. So usually if you don't have any locking system, the gimbal will move around and swing all over the place in your bag, and that's not great. Also, you're gonna damage the gimbal. The second reason why the locks are very useful is to balance and mount the camera or the device on the gimbal. We're gonna check it out. In this gimbal, we have 4 different locks. One is for the pan, so left and right, which is right there. We can lock it or unlock it. So when you lock it, the gimbal will not move. You unlock it and it will start spinning. Then we have one on the roll axis right here. Now it's unlocked. I'm gonna lock it in. Nice. And one is here for the, there you go. You see it there? This is for the tilt axis. Unlock it and lock it. The last lock is here, and that's for the plate to mount the camera. Actually, it's not for the axis. So let's lock them all. Let's lock all the 4. Okay, so your gimbal should be nice and steady now and sturdy. Nothing is moving. Remember, do not turn your gimbal on when the locks are locked, because otherwise the motors are going to struggle and the gimbal is shutting down. We're going to see how to mount and balance a device on the gimbal. As I mentioned, you can use this gimbal with 3 different types of device. A GoPro, so an action camera, not exclusively GoPro. You can use different cameras. And yes, your question is, can I use the media mode with the GoPro? Definitely you can on this gimbal because it has a lot of power. Then we can use bigger cameras like the Sony Alpha families, Sony A64, 6300, but also bigger like A7S, A7R, that type of stuff. And of course we can use smartphones. To make sure your gimbal is set up properly, make sure you always read the text you have on the motors upright, the way right up. So M2S should be readable, and so should be the Crane-M2 S here on the roll axis. Because sometimes they go upside down like this. You don't want to do that, you know. So make sure you read the tags correctly. For each device, we have a different mount that can be attached to the plate. This is my quick release plate, and that's what we want to do first, is to mount the quick release plate. It's very simple. You want to insert it in this open space right there, like that. If it doesn't click, you need to unlock this system first. And what you have to do is to pull this black lever, and it will unlock the system. And then again, we slide in the plate. And now hear it locked in. And the lock went back to the closed position. If we want to release the mount, we open the lock again, and it will stay in place. And then we push the red button which says unlock. All right, simples. So we go open, insert, ready to go. Now I'm going to mount the GoPro, and to mount the GoPro, actually, I will mount the GoPro facing myself because I have my other camera here. Basically, the front of the gimbal is where you have the light right there, and the GoPro or your device should face the same direction. Now, to mount the GoPro on the gimbal, you need an adapter, which is a 1/4 inch screw adapter to the GoPro mount. You can find it on Amazon or in the link below. Nice and straight and tight. Now we're gonna put it on the plate. We have a screw here on the plate that goes back and forth. We simply are going to screw it in. And now we try to keep the GoPro as close as we can towards the light or towards the tilt axis, which is here. So don't keep it there, but go as close as you can towards the light. And we tighten up the screw. What we're going to do next is to unlock the tilt axis, and that's the first axis we're going to balance. Remember the locking system, we're going to unlock the tilt axis only, okay, which is right here. Let's unlock it, put it down, and you will see your camera going down or up because it's completely unbalanced for now. And to balance it, first of all, we're going to pull up this gray lever. We're going to pull it up. When you unscrew this gray lever, our camera can go towards the back or the front. What we want is to find the position where the camera will be facing straight and it will not bend forward or backward. In my case, I found it right there. So make sure you slide the camera with small adjustments. You need to be very careful until you find that spot, which is right there for me. I'm going to lock back the gray lever. And now we're actually balancing the tilting axis. If I lift my camera up and I let go, it will be facing down because it means it's bottom heavy. So we need to unlock another lever, which is this one here this time. I show you from this side. This lever, we're going to unlock it, and that will allow us to move the camera up and down. All right, it's a bit complicated in the beginning. Now, if we put the camera horizontally, again, it will go back or front. And we need to find the position where the camera will stay in a horizontal line, on an horizontal level. What you have to do is to basically move it up and down, but keeping the camera this position. And actually I found the spot, so I'm gonna lock back this lever. And if you balanced it well, whatever position you will place your camera into, the camera will stay. There you go, you see? Properly balanced. Whatever I do, the camera is staying there. Wow, that's the first axis. We have other two to go. But we're going to unlock the roll axis, which is the one at the back. So you see this lock, make sure you unlock it, open up, and again the camera is out of balance because we need to balance this axis now. There's another gray lever on the roll axis. We're going to open it up there. All right, this is the back of the gimbal. And now you want to slide these axes left and right until the camera will stay in place. Again, be gentle. That's my spot. When you find it, let's lock the gray lever. Now, whatever you do with your camera, you move it in any position, the camera has to stay there. That's when you have found the good balance. Look at this. Professionals. All right, we got one more to go. We're going to unlock the pan axis with this lock here. Let's unlock it. The camera is starting to spin around, and we're going to actually hold the gimbal up this time and move it left or right. It's completely unbalanced. You see the camera is just moving all over the place. What we have to do now is to open the last lever, the gray lever here on the pan axis. Open it up. We are going to hold the gimbal. Bear in mind the trigger is the front of the gimbal, so that needs to face forward. If we hold the gimbal like so and we try to move it, we need to find that spot where the camera is staying in all the positions I put it to. Okay, you want to move a tiny bit to the left, a tiny bit to the right, and finding that spot. So the gimbal stays, and I found my balance, and now it's completely balanced. If you want to balance your smartphone, the gimbal comes with the smartphone holder. You simply want to put it here on the mount, place your smartphone, and go through the same process we have just followed. If you want to place an A7 or A6400 camera on the top, you remove everything. I mean, you remove the GoPro and the GoPro adapter, and you simply use the screw on the release plate and you balance it again. To turn on the gimbal, there's a power button on the side of it with an arrow that goes up. We hold it for 1, 2, and the gimbal turns on. There we go. Ooh, magic. To turn it off, we do the same thing. We hold the button for 1, 2, and gimbal goes off. Before you turn it on, remember, unlock all the locks on the gimbal. Otherwise, it will start shaking and it will turn off. We're now finding out how to operate the gimbal through the buttons, and I'm gonna guide you through the buttons as well. Of course, we've seen the power button, and I'm turning my gimbal on once again. Then we have a menu button on the right hand side, just under the power button. If you press it, in the display of the gimbal, you will input the menu. And from here, you can move around with the joystick here in the front. So you scroll through the menu up and down. If you want to change certain settings, you go to the right with your joystick and you will enter a sub menu. You choose your option. To select the option, once again, you click on the right with the joystick. Now I'm gonna stop here. To go back to square one, we press the menu button once again. If we want to operate and move the gimbal, we can do so with the joystick. Again, simply just move right or left, up and down, and the gimbal will follow your fingers movement. Then we have an M button, which is the mode button. So a gimbal can work in different modes. The default mode is PF, which is pan follow. If I move my gimbal, the camera will follow my panning movements from left to right, but nothing happens if I tilt the camera. If we switch to lock mode, which is the L mode, in this way, whatever you do with your hand, the camera will be keeping facing forward. Lock mode. We press it once again. We go to F mode, which is follow mode. In this mode, the camera will follow your panning and tilting. So if I go up, camera goes up, down, left, and right. If I quickly press the M button twice, we go to POV mode. This is a more free type of movements. So as you can see, I can go diagonally as well now, and it reacts a bit faster than the others. I press it twice again, 1, 2. We're gonna go in V mode, which is the vortex mode. So the camera will be facing up, and now you can place your gimbal horizontally, and by using the joystick from left to right, you can create this inception mode or vortex. And also in this way, you can use your camera in portrait mode. So not in landscape, not in horizontal position, but in vertical for your Instagram, for example, Instagram stories. There you go. I'm pressing M again, and I go to the follow mode. If you want to do portrait mode, there's also another way, which is simply spinning your gimbal horizontally, and the camera will follow. And now it's an awkward position, but still it's quite steady, and you can use it this way for your vertical mode. Now let's say that your camera is facing down, or it's in an awkward position, and you want to go back to the default position. At the front of the gimbal or the back of the gimbal, depending on how you see it, there's a trigger. We want to double press the trigger, 1, 2, and the camera will go back to the original position. If we press it 3 times, 1, 2, 3, we are going to go in selfie mode. Oh yeah, I'm talking to you, GoPro. That's very useful for your vlogging. And again, 1, 2, 3. And it goes back. There's an extra option, which is holding the trigger for 1, 2, 3. And now we are in Go mode. The Go mode, I'm not really sure what it does. It's very similar to the POV, actually. It's even more free than the POV. But yeah, just test it out. If we go on the other side of the gimbal, we have, well, a 1/4 inch screw thread. And here you can attach possibly an external light, like one of these you see here, like a small light, or even an external microphone if you want to connect it to your camera, or a tiny monitor as well. There's a DC input, again, to charge your device. And there's a light button. To turn on the light, you want to pull the button up for 1, 2, and the light goes on in the front. Now from here, you have 5 different levels of brightness, and you can change the brightness simply by re-pulling the button here up. This is level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the same thing if you want to lower it, of course, we go down this time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To turn it off, we hold it down. 1, 2, 3. Simple. These are the buttons of your gimbal and how you control the gimbal from the body. I want to show you an extra feature of the light, which are the gels. So the gimbal comes with 4 different gels, different colors. They are magnetic. And to change the temperature of the light, you simply place it on top of the light. Now we have a yellow light. Okay, let's say I want a blue light. I change it, and now I've got a blue fill light. What if I make it blue and yellow? It should become green. Ish. But yeah, it's fun to play with. Oops. Make sure you don't lose them. I want to talk now about the connection between the gimbal and the camera. And at the moment, today, actually the only camera you can control are the bigger cameras, like the Sony A7R, for example, A7R III. But there's a list of the cameras, compatible cameras, that you can control through the gimbal on the Zhiyun website. So if you're unsure, go and check it out. For now, I'm sure I can control my A7R III, but there's no way to control the action cameras or the smartphones directly through the gimbal. And what I mean by that is that you can't really press the record button on the gimbal and make your device recording. You can only do that on the bigger cameras through the cable that comes with the gimbal. To connect a Sony camera, for example, you want to go in the settings of the camera to USB connections, and from there choose mass storage. So make sure you do that before you do anything else. Then you want to grab this cable that comes with the gimbal. This is a USB-C connector to micro USB. We want to connect the USB-C connector here at the back of the gimbal in this port, and the other extremity of the cable goes in your camera in the multimedia port. Now your camera will recognize the gimbal, and by pressing the rec button on the gimbal, you'll be able to record through the camera. That's a great thing because sometimes on gimbals you don't really want to touch the camera anymore, and you can just press the record button from the gimbal. We're gonna dive now into the app, and I'm gonna show you how you can control your gimbal from the app, but also another couple of extra features. So what you want to do is to go to the iStore or the Play Store, enter and search for Zhiyun Play. Right? ZY Play, that's the one you need. install it simply by clicking on install. When you did that, you go into your apps, that's mine, and we open it up. Okay, as it opens up, what we want to do on the gimbal is to make sure all the locks are unlocked. Okay, the camera moves freely. We're going to turn it on. You also want to make sure your Wi-Fi and your Bluetooth are on. So if you have it off, just turn it on, and also the Bluetooth. Now here in the app, we want to scroll through until we find the Crane-M2 S picture and text. We're going to connect now. And we need also to activate the location. So scroll down to your menu, activate the location, go back to the app and click OK. Connect now again, and the Bluetooth is looking for the device. Okay, you will see the name of your crane, Crane-M2 S, whatever. Click on connection, and you need to activate the gimbal. So you want to give allowance here, access to device and location information. Click on the icon, press next. Please activate after login. So we are going to sign in, enter your phone number. So click your code, area code. I'm in the UK, and now I'm going to put my phone number. I'm not going to show you. Okay, once you're done that, choose a password and write it right there. And then we click on sign in. Confirm your activation, click on activation, and if everything goes well, you are ready and completed. Click on completed and enter now. Woohoo! Once you're here, make sure the Bluetooth icon is actually in blue color. That means you are connected to your gimbal. If it's not, click on it until it turns blue. The big circle here represents your joystick. So if you want to move your camera through the joystick, you simply press on the button in the middle and you go left, right, up and down, and the camera will follow. It's great. You can also tilt it diagonally with this semicircle in top of your main button. As I mentioned, the record button is not working yet with the GoPro and smartphone, so I hope in the new firmware that will work out, but this is the very first version of the app. If we press the small camera icon, the red camera icon, now here we have the cool features. We can go to panoramic. The camera will move, for example, from left to right to create a panoramic shot. And here you want to add points, key points to create the movement. So we go to add point, and then with the joystick here in the app as well, you move your camera to the left or right, for example, and you add another point. So you will see the A and B points have been created. And then you press start recording, but once again, by pressing this button, only the gimbal will work. So you make sure you want to press record also on your recording device. So if I start recording, count down, 3, 2, 1, and there you go. The camera will go from A to B. Still in process. Finish. All right, that's the first option. We go back to the camera and we got time lapse. In the time lapse, you can choose the time interval. So how many seconds you want between each shot. Let's go to 1 second to make it quick. And the duration will be the total duration of your actual time lapse. So if I want a shot every second, I click here, 1 second, and then I want a time lapse, a total time lapse, the last 5 seconds in all, which is 301 photos. Okay, so that is a lot. And basically you press start recording, the camera will stay fixed in position and will record and will snap 300 photos for a total time lapse of 5 seconds. We're gonna close. The last option is trajectory photography. This is basically a mix between the panoramic shot and the time lapse. It's a hyper time lapse. So the camera will be moving as it takes photos with an interval of time. Again, you can move your gimbal, you can place it in position That's your first position. You want to press on the yellow plus here in the first position, and we're going to add a second location. We're going to move it with the joystick either on the gimbal or the app. And you can add a third point if you wanted to. We can go to mode and choose photo or video mode, whatever you like. Click OK. Again, you choose a shooting interval, so how many seconds you want between each shot, the shutter speed, and the duration, the overall duration of your video or time lapse. Then you start recording. Remember, you want to press recording also on the device. So I just did, and now the camera will take 10 minutes to finish off my hyper time lapse. You can't see it because it's very slow, but the camera is actually panning to the right. Back to the main menu. Top right, the very top right, there's a setting icon, which is an hexagonal shape with a dot in the middle. We press that. To the very top right of the menu, there's an hexagonal shaped icon with a dot in the middle. That's the settings menu. We're gonna press on it. And there's a sub menu that says scene mode, camera brand, 6-side calibration, strength, motor calibration, and device information. If we go to scene mode, these are just different settings for your gimbal, and it will calibrate the gimbal according to what you want to do. So if you're just following someone, you choose follow gimbal. If you're walking, you choose walking. Motion, if there's a bit more action in your shots, and the gimbal will adapt to that style of videos. Camera brand, you can choose what camera you're using. Strength, it's actually the strength of the motors. The GoPro is very light, so you might get away with the low power in terms of motors. If you have bigger cameras, you might go to medium or high. And device information is just the name of the device. What we're gonna do together is to calibrate the gimbal. And you wanna do this the first time you use your gimbal. Click on 6-side calibration. The device will go in sleep mode, as you can see from the icons here. And now you simply need to follow exactly the images that show up on your phone and place the gimbal as it is in the photos. And I'm actually going to remove the camera. So the first position without a tripod, so the trigger is towards me, and the motor of the tilt is touching the table in this case. When you are in the right position, the app will recognize the position and will move to the second position. All right, and you just keep following the photos until the end of the process. Calibration complete. Click on the X and you should be ready to go. Make sure your gimbal is upright. We turn it off and on just to check it. Right, ready to go. Well, that should be more or less a very first manual for you guys if you're just starting with the Crane-M2 S. I hope it helped out. Once again, hit the subscribe button, don't forget. You can also check other gimbals on my YouTube channel. I've got plenty, also the M3, which is great. Go check it out. I hope to see you in the next video. If you have any question, drop a comment down here. Go and check my website for video making and video editing tutorials and courses. See you there.